Welcome back to the battles between Thanos, in his cosmic control form, versus Oblivion. A battle between Thanos, at the peak of his cosmic control form, and Oblivion is a nearly impossible task. On one side is the Mad Titan, who rose from a mortal being to become one of the most feared forces in the universe, who has repeatedly held the power of God himself and even surpassed the supreme cosmic entities. On the other side is the embodiment of the void itself, one of the four primordial entities that existed before the universe was born, representing non-existence, the absolute emptiness from which all things emerge and to which all things will return. Let us begin.
As an Eternal, carrying the recessive deviant gene, Thanos possesses physical strength, intellect, and cosmic abilities far beyond almost every being in the galaxy. Born on Titan, a moon of Saturn with purple skin and ridged grooves on his chin marking the deviant bloodline, Thanos went from an outcast child to the destroyer of worlds, an entity whose very name makes cosmic empires tremble. Thanos' cosmic control form is not a single state, but the pinnacle of the journey he has pursued throughout his life, the journey to become a god. It could be Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, when he held all 6 Infinity Stones and became a nearly omnipotent entity in the universe. It could be Thanos with the Heart of the Universe, when he absorbed an energy source that far surpassed even the Infinity Gauntlet and became the supreme entity of the entire multiverse. It could be Thanos with godlike power, when he actually replaced the very god of Marvel, the one above all, and became the supreme creator. And it could be Thanos in his astral regulator form, when he merged with the very fabric of reality and became the regulator of cosmic laws. Unlike many beings who are gifted power or inherit it, Thanos conquered each level of power himself through sheer will, intellect, and ruthlessness. He was not born to be divine, he made himself divine. And it is this very journey, this profound understanding of the nature of power that he accumulated with each step that makes Thanos more dangerous than any cosmic entity. In the Infinity Gauntlet event, Thanos, with the Infinity Gauntlet, demonstrated his near absolute power. He confronted the entire pantheon of Marvel cosmic entities, including Galactus, Eternity, Infinity, Lord Chaos, Master Order, 2 Celestials, Love and Hate, and even other abstract entities, and defeated all of them. He bent reality to his will, turned the mightiest heroes into blocks of glass, erased half of all life in the universe with a mere snap of his fingers. Even when the cosmic entities combined their forces to attack, Thanos stood firm, the Infinity Gauntlet allowing him to manipulate every aspect of reality, time, space, mind, soul, power, and reality simultaneously. It was not just about Thanos possessing the Infinity Gauntlet, it was about how he used it. When Eternity, the embodiment of the entire universe, attacked him with the power of all reality, Thanos did not merely resist. He overwhelmed Eternity, defeated the very embodiment of the universe, and replaced it, becoming the universe itself for a moment. This proves that Thanos' power in this state is not just the power of the Infinity Stones, but also the understanding and will to use them at their maximum potential, something few beings can achieve. In the Marvel, The End event, Thanos reached an even higher level of power when he absorbed the Heart of the Universe, an energy source created by the One Above All itself. With this power, Thanos became the supreme entity of the entire Marvel multiverse. He absorbed the entire living tribunal, the entity representing the judgment of God himself, into his own body. He erased the entire multiverse in a single moment, then recreated it according to his own will. The most terrifying thing about Thanos, in the Heart of the Universe state, is his near absolute omnipotence. He could not only manipulate reality, he could redefine the very concept of reality itself. He could create and destroy universes, rewrite the laws of physics, and even challenge the One Above All itself. Although he eventually realized that even this power could not fill the void in his soul. Another peak version is Thanos with godlike power, when he actually absorbed and replaced the One Above All, the supreme being of the entire Marvel universe. Another peak version is Thanos with godlike power, when he actually absorbed and replaced the One Above All, the supreme being of the entire Marvel universe. In this story, Thanos discovered the true nature of God and found a way to absorb his power. In this state, Thanos is not just the most powerful entity in the universe, he is the universe itself, the source of all existence, the beginning and the end of all things. And finally, there is Astral Regulator Thanos, a version of Thanos who has merged with the very fabric of reality, becoming the regulator of cosmic laws. In this state, Thanos is no longer an individual with a physical form. He is an inseparable part of Marvel cosmology itself, capable of regulating the flow of time, space, and reality at will. This is the state where Thanos transcended all limits of individual existence to become something greater, more primordial, and more terrifying. As you can see, Thanos, in his peak cosmic control forms, has reached levels of power that even the supreme cosmic entities cannot match. From defeating eternity with the Infinity Gauntlet, to absorbing the living tribunal with the heart of the universe, to replacing the one above all itself, Thanos has repeatedly proven that there are no limits to his ambition and capability. Next, we will now talk about Oblivion. As I mentioned before, Oblivion is already one of the most primordial and mysterious entities in the Marvel Universe. However, the fact that Oblivion is not merely a cosmic entity but the embodiment of the void itself, one of the four primordial entities that existed before the universe was born, alongside death, eternity, and infinity, is precisely why the true scope of his power is so difficult to quantify. Oblivion does not represent an aspect of reality. He is the embodiment of non-existence, of the absolute emptiness from which all reality emerges and to which it will return. While eternity represents all of existence, Oblivion represents everything that does not exist, and by definition, that which does not exist is always greater than that which exists. Every universe, every reality, every dimension is merely a tiny island in the infinite ocean of the void that Oblivion embodies. In Marvel cosmology, Oblivion is one of the first entities to appear, existing even before there was a distinction between existence and non-existence. He was not created, he simply is and always has been. That truth is crucial. If Oblivion is the embodiment of the void itself, of the very emptiness from which all things emerge, then there is no logical basis to argue that any being of existence, no matter how powerful, can truly defeat him. Oblivion occupies a unique position in the cosmic hierarchy. He is not a villain in the traditional sense. He has no plans, no ambitions, no desires. He simply is. He is the final destination of all things, the absolute darkness waiting at the end of every path. When universes die, they return to Oblivion. When cosmic entities end their cycle of existence, they return to Oblivion. When eternity itself, the embodiment of all existence, comes to an end, it too will return to Oblivion. One of the most terrifying aspects of Oblivion is that he cannot be destroyed in any comprehensible way. Every attack, every weapon, every power, all are manifestations of existence, and therefore, logically, they cannot affect that which does not exist. You cannot fire a bolt of energy into the void and expect it to be harmed. The void will simply absorb it, swallow it, make it a part of itself. Oblivion has demonstrated his power on a few rare occasions, and each time has affirmed his status as one of the most supreme entities. On one occasion, he easily defeated Molecule Man, an entity with the ability to manipulate matter at the molecular level, who has faced the Beyonder and even cosmic entities. Oblivion did not need to fight, he simply existed, and his existence was enough to drown Molecule Man in despair and helplessness. On another occasion, Oblivion met with Quasar and granted him a glimpse into the true nature of the universe. He revealed that he exists everywhere and nowhere, that he is the space between the stars, the silence between the notes of existence. The important thing to understand about Oblivion is that he is not an enemy that can be defeated by force. He is a concept, a fundamental principle of reality. You cannot defeat the void any more than you can defeat the idea of zero. Zero will always be zero, no matter how much you try to add to it. Oblivion is often considered equal to death, eternity, and infinity, forming the primordial quartet, representing the most fundamental aspects of reality. However, there is an argument that Oblivion is even superior to those three entities, because while death, eternity, and infinity represent aspects of existence, Oblivion represents that which encompasses them all, the non-existence from which all existence emerges and to which it will return. Oblivion is described as an entity whose power far surpasses the living tribunal, the supreme judge of the Marvel Universe, who stands only below the one above all. This is because the living tribunal, although infinitely powerful within the scope of existence, is still an entity of existence. One of the most impressive feats involving Oblivion is his creation of the Exterminator's entities designed to erase all existence, returning everything to the void. These exterminators are so powerful that they can confront cosmic entities and even threaten the entire multiverse. In the Chaos War event, when Amatsu Mikaboshi, the Japanese chaos god, who had absorbed the power of countless cosmic entities, threatened all of reality, Oblivion himself was mentioned as one of the entities capable of confronting this threat. The most terrifying thing about Oblivion is not his power, but his absolute indifference. He does not hate existence. He simply does not care about it. He has no plan to destroy the universe. He knows that eventually everything will return to him on its own. Thus, Oblivion is truly the embodiment of the void itself, an entity that cannot be destroyed, cannot be defeated, and cannot be challenged by any being of existence. The confrontation, Thanos, in all his cosmic control forms, is still an entity of existence. His power, no matter how immense, whether the power of the Infinity Gauntlet, the heart of the universe, or godlike power, is still power expressed within the framework of existence. He manipulates reality, bends space, reverses time, but all of these things take place within the realm of that which exists. Oblivion, on the other hand, is not an entity of existence. He is the embodiment of non-existence itself, of the absolute void. His power is not strength in the traditional sense. It is the absence of all things, the emptiness that nothing can fill. When Thanos fires a blast of energy capable of destroying a galaxy at Oblivion, that blast will enter the void and become a part of it because the void cannot be harmed by things that exist. Thanos, at the peak of his power, has a scope of influence spanning the entire multiverse. With the heart of the universe, he can erase and recreate the entire Marvel multiverse. With godlike power, he can replace the one above all itself and become the supreme creator. His scope of influence, in these states, is infinite within the framework of existence. But the scope of Oblivion's influence extends far beyond that. He does not merely influence the multiverse, he is the very foundation upon which the multiverse exists. He is the space between universes, the emptiness between realities, the final destination of every multiverse. When Thanos erased the multiverse with the heart of the universe, he sent all of them back to Oblivion. When Thanos created a new multiverse, he created it from the very void that Oblivion embodies. Immortality. Thanos, in his cosmic control forms, is nearly absolutely immortal. With the Infinity Gauntlet, he can block all attacks, heal all wounds, and even reconstruct his body from nothingness. With the heart of the universe, he exists beyond all concepts of life and death. With godlike power, he is the very source of all life. But all of these things are forms of existence. And Oblivion does not care about existence. He does not need to kill Thanos, he only needs to wait, because eventually, all existence will end, and when it ends, it will return to Oblivion. Even if Thanos can delay that moment for billions of years, even trillions of years, compared to the eternity of the void, that is but a moment. After careful analysis, we must face an inescapable conclusion. Thanos, even at his peak cosmic control form, cannot truly defeat Oblivion, because Oblivion is not something that can be defeated. At the same time, Oblivion will not defeat Thanos in the traditional sense either, because Oblivion does not defeat anything. He simply waits. Thanos, with the Infinity Gauntlet, defeated eternity, the embodiment of all existence. With the heart of the universe, he absorbed the living tribunal, the supreme judge of the universe. With godlike power, he replaced the one above all itself. At every step, he overcame entities that were not supposed to be overcome. He did what no one thought was possible. But Oblivion is not eternity. Oblivion is not the living tribunal. Oblivion is not even the one above all. Although the relationship between Oblivion and the one above all is a complex and controversial one, Oblivion is something else, something more primordial, more fundamental. He is not the king of existence, he is the king of non-existence, and his kingdom is larger than any kingdom of existence. And even Thanos, who has defied all limits and overcome all barriers, cannot change the truth that all things, including himself, ultimately belong to Oblivion. Oblivion wins. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Thank you all very much.